Hello, and welcome to the first edition of Auto Insider, a brand new podcast brought to you by Automobility Limited. I'm Bill Russo, the founder and CEO of Automobility. We're a strategy and investment advisory firm based here in Shanghai, China, with the mission to help our clients build and profit from the future of mobility. Since 2017, Automobility specialized in helping companies navigate this rapidly evolving global mobility landscape, whether it's electrification, connectivity, autonomous driving, or new business models emerging in the transport sector. We're based in Shanghai, and China has become the epicenter and the superscaler of automotive innovation in this century. I'm excited to launch this platform where we bring you insider perspectives on the forces shaping the future of the mobility industry in China and beyond. Our aim with this platform is to hear direct from the people who are actively shaping the future of mobility, especially in the markets that are scaling the critical technologies that are transforming mobility, which, after all, is the circulatory system of the global economy. And to kick off our very first episode, I'm happy to bring a perfect guest, Jack Cheng. He's a true pioneer in the automotive and the electric vehicle industry. And over the past several decades, he's held key leadership roles at Ford, Fiat Chrysler, Magnetti Marelli, before co-founding NIO, one of China's leading influential EV companies. Jack, since leaving NIO, has later led Foxconn's MIH initiative, where he has advocated for an open EV ecosystem. And now he's the chairman and CEO of M-Mobility, where he's driving innovation in sustainable urban transportation. Beyond his impressive career, Jack is also someone with a deep passion for creativity, whether it's in engineering or music. When he's not shaping the future of mobility, you might just find him playing his guitar, which is one of his passions. In today's conversation, we're going to explore the biggest breakthroughs in the automotive industry, the rise of intelligent mobility, the evolving supply chain, and what the future holds for China's role in global mobility. Jack has a wealth of insights to share, and I can't think of a better way to launch this podcast than with this discussion. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome, Jack. Can you maybe introduce yourself for people who don't know you yet, but they'll know you after this hour? Share a little bit about your journey in the automotive industry.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. I'm Jack. Basically, you can call me an automotive veteran. I've been in the industry for more than 40 years, and I'm still working. And I'm back in Taiwan after my long history in China and also in the global platform. I've been working with Ford, with Fiat, with a lot of legacy company. Enjoy working on the car all my life, but then get invited and then make this initiative of EV. So with a lot of internet gurus, I've been lucky enough to step into the automotive EV era since 10 years ago. So with that, I think, as you know, NIO was founded in 14, and then with a lot of evolution together with China automotive environment, I think China has become a very big power in the world for EV, particular in the software-driven vehicle stage. What I also can share with everybody is that not only from China perspective, but also from outside of China, what's going on right now since I came back to Taiwan, being engaged with the semiconductor and also AI initiative, being really enjoying all this different perspective. And maybe it's about time that Bill and I can share some of this evolution for you. So thank you very much for Bill your invitation, and really happy to be here.
Great, Jack. We go back a bit of a ways. We both had a common point of origin. I worked for 17 years in Detroit before coming to China, but I worked for Chrysler. You came a little bit after I did, after I left the operation here in China in Beijing, and I moved shortly thereafter to Shanghai. And I think we got together as part of what we call the Shanghai Mafia. Maybe you could tell the folks a little bit about exactly what that is and what it takes to be a member of that club.
It was a term that saying this is against, but it's not only just for wine and dine. It's about sharing the information and also try to push along the side that what the China automotive industry is going for. Particular when we migrate from Beijing to Shanghai, at that time, Ford Motor Company was trying to put together a China sourcing office in Shanghai. I was the first representative doing the global sourcing from the region. So basically, I was lucky enough to join the club from Beijing to Shanghai. As you know, Shanghai has so much going on, and I will be happy to share that Alicia Webb, she was the journalist in automotive news in China, and he did a lot for this so-called the club. And we have a platform that basically is staying in Alicia's house, and then started to have coffee, drink, and enjoy staying with her cat, and then started to talk about all different things. And my biggest insight with automotive news is that for automotive news, it inspire a lot of people, young people, really joining the automotive industry, not just from Michigan, the center of the universe. I told that the center of Michigan for automotive has now moved to Shanghai. And with that, I think the mafia make a great job trying to make everything happen. The sourcing, the manufacturing, and General Motor, Ford, Chrysler, all with the presence in China, really coming into this region in a big way. So that's how we call ourselves the club. And then we are really trying to push for the younger generation. So at that time, when we hire a lot of people in China, now all becoming the pillars of Chinese automotive industry. So that was one part of it.
Great. Yeah, we see the rise of a new generation, actually one that brings in a whole new way of thinking about the innovation model and the commercialization path, bringing a lot of new technology in. But that nucleus of folks who came probably a decade and a half earlier, kind of built up the foundation that we're now seeing rise from the growth of this industry. Over that past 15-year period, China became the largest car market in the world. And now, by far, it's about 1/3 of all the cars made and about 2/3 of the world's electric vehicles and more than 3/4 of the world's EV batteries. So we're seeing a whole lot of disruption and innovation for the industry centered on China. It's changed a lot, but it was proud to be a member of the OG old gangsters of the Shanghai Mafia. In your career, I mean, we both had the opportunity to work for the industry in Detroit and then came to China. Over that trajectory, what's been the most rewarding part of your career so far?
Well, we missed the best part of my career, which was down under. I was in Melbourne, Australia for a couple of years, and I had my second kids born there. That time, Asia Pacific, believe it or not, Ford Motor Company tried to put a headquarters for Asia Pacific in Melbourne rather than even in Singapore or in China, because at that time, during the 80s and 90s, the industry is not developed yet. The migration is really straight into China, and then make sure that whatever China have covered the region. My career before even come to China, I was in London working for a Mondale project. That project went well globally because Mondale was considered a former company as a global. It's called CDW 27. It's worldwide platform. CD means the city. With that, I think the evolution is that we want to have a shared platform globally and then make sure that each region have different body configuration and the specification tailored to the local market needs. But it was very hard to execute. So I learned a lot from that project. When I come to China from London, moved to China, I was having a lot of experience and really share that with the automotive industry to see whether we can put the Mazda, the Volvo, Jack Land Volvo at that time was all belonging to Ford to become playful. Initially, it was a very easy task. Put on a drawing board and say, hey, this is a shared platform. Let's go do it. Share the components, share the engineering resource, even share some of this regulation synergy. It's so hard because we do something. It come to different region, different supplier, different architecture. The commonization was not even 30% if we want to put a car. So I believe that at the moment the global industry is split into geopolitical issue. Might not be a bad thing, but if you look at this volume tail, we need to make sure the volume is good enough to justify the investment. So far, China with the volume, with also the competition, has the most volume justified program. So I think that's why the China is becoming so big.
Right. The challenge this industry always faces is when you bring new ideas or platforms or innovations to the market, you have to bring them in at a price that you can generate sufficient enough volume to make it a decent return on your investment. And that's always been difficult to look at it across the whole world because the world requires different solutions in different places. China's changed that calculus a bit because of its size and scale and its impact on not only the volumes that are achievable, but the type of innovations that are going to be preferred, right? The Chinese market is very different in expectations because, frankly, they don't have long histories, multi-generational habits of how they consume mobility. So that creates a lot of opportunity for companies that are willing to experiment in that domain. Having spent the more recent part of your career in this part of the world, what would you say is the most rewarding part of your experience, or what have you taken away from that experience that gives you insight that would be helpful for others who are venturing into this domain?
I think definitely because it's not only because my background on the supply chain, it's about how are you going to simplify your platform and then become software driven. It's learning for the last 10 years when I step into, we call it the EV. I would say it's a smart EV or smart mobility. That's where you start to learn the ICT industry. Why is this so evolved into software driven and then a faster cycle for product renew? And then plus also the technology investment, including the AI. Because if you are not software enough, you are going to face the competition because of the fast move of the competition into the AI era. So far, I believe the data-driven stuff, and also it's gonna make a human being with a different life. I would cherish any moment that they teach me how to get into the software rather than the hardware platform architecture, EA, and etc. So that's the biggest learn when I was in China.
Yeah, I think this evolution of this industry from, I'd say, dominated by mechanical engineering toward more software engineering and more user-centric designs. The features that people care about are changing from not just the driving experience, which matters, but the whole user experience in vehicle. I think I've heard those terms pioneered by the founder of NIO, William Lee, a few years back, coming from more of an internet background, bringing that mindset into the vernacular, right? Where now companies actually, more than one, but many, especially in China, companies really talk about designing the car around the occupant, not just around the driver. So I think one of the things I want to explore a bit deeper is about how we think of innovation, right? The industry is kind of trending, as you've already illustrated or indicated, toward a different paradigm of how we think of the car. And by the way, that's not just because of the electrification. Electrification is kind of what everybody talks about because it's the thing that's most different about the technology that you see emerging from China. But you highlighted smartness, smart EV. You used the term earlier, ICT. That is the Internet and Communication Technology companies. The presence of those types of companies in the automotive industry value chain. That's kind of unique. For what I experienced in Detroit for 17 years and what I've seen for the past 2 decades here in China is you've got a very different kind of a value chain emerging. So let's explore that a little bit more. What do you think are some of the most important breakthrough innovations that you've witnessed or been involved with over the past several years?
I think the lifestyle becoming the first element when you design a product and services. The lifestyle involving your voice, vision, touch feeling, and the whole holistic experience in the cockpit, plus the driving experience. My biggest impact is that when we went to San Jose in the first place, when we put together an office in US for NEO, we found the talking machine, as you will see, Alisa. That's something that in China we found, wow, this is something you can talk in the kitchen when you cook. And we thought, why don't you use that as when you drive, you can talk to somebody. And that somebody become an icon we call know me in the car. He knows me, so we call it NMI, know me. When you have a question or you have any logistic issue, you talk to the guy rather than trying to find in the screen the information and so on. It's it's more safety oriented. If you have somebody to talk to, and then you become that guy become your digital twin because all the data that you input into it becoming in the cloud and then mirror you. So when in the future when you buy uh, the car, you're buying somebody's experience, or you renew your car, your experience in the previous car will be then transformed to the new car. So just like ICT industry, when you buy a new phone, and you can actually move most of your data to the next one, and still the user experience gradually improved. So these are the things that the traditional legacy OEM is hard to break through because your design is centering, as you said, centering around the hardware and also centered around the driver. It's never thought about the lifestyle. So lifestyle becomes one of the top priority when we put together new smart mobility. That really impacted me a lot.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that I think is a challenge for the industry, it has been historically, is how do you get a person to stay in the relationship with you beyond the first time you've sold them a car? All of what you just described makes it harder to switch, right? Because you become stuck into an ecosystem that meets your lifestyle, that you've adapted to a degree. You've integrated the car into your connected lifestyle. And when you do that, it's much more of a club, right? It's kind of, you create a club membership with a brand and a relationship with a brand that goes beyond the transaction, right? It becomes a complementary part of your lifestyle. I don't think the world outside of China has really seen that yet. I think as Chinese brands extend their reach beyond China, they might get a taste of it. But I think part of the membership is the software features of the vehicle. There are hardware features like the Nomi, which you can create something that is obviously visible that you can point to and say, this is the technology that I buy into. This is the reason why I bought this particular car. So all the things you've witnessed, what do you think is going to have the most lasting impact long term, not just in China, but globally on the development of the industry?
I think with the shortage of the chips, event prompt a lot of panic in the production side and also the industry and say, wow, how come we don't understand where the chips is coming from and then where they really design and also manufacture really that shocked me a lot because I was first time exposed to this issue and then I was trying to find out everybody's supply chain and that was becoming such a complicated chart and most of the tier one they don't know where the chips they are manufactured. So with that now we understand after the debacle of this chip shortage that people started to realize they have to dip into the tier three, tier four, or even tier five, understand their overall overarching structure of the supply chain so they can shorten their development lead time. That's the most that I have learned. Really come to a stage how can we make the semiconductor, the IC design much earlier evolve, and then you can make sure your smart mobility are designed from the get-go. That's the thing. And since that debacle, I think that most of the OEM are starting to redesign their partnership with the supplier. They go through, they jump the tier one straight to the tier three, tier four, and then they find out they don't have the wheelbase to deal with those guys because they don't understand the IC industry at all. They have to learn the new thing, and also they have a big issue with their tier one because those guys they have different transparency issue with the customer. Meaning, I think the legacy is very hard to change, but the new guys they learn so much. Xiaomi was a good example. They learn so much because they waited everybody to go through all this period and then they started jump out and becoming the new startup to bring all this together. And as long as also we can talk about it later about Huawei and all the other guys. They are much more starting from scratch and then they can learn pretty fast and make it
Yeah.
right.
It's interesting because I think the discontinuity, again, often misinterpreted outside of China, is we see, because we're in, from the automotive industry, you view the world through the lens of the traditional automotive value chain and its supply chain, which tends to look at the product as a hardware product. When it becomes an intelligent connected vehicle or a smart EV, it has a different value chain relationship to both the user, because now the software experience matters, the intelligent connectivity matters. That's software enabled. It's probably based on a infrastructure that the automotive industry didn't create. It's based on something that a digital integrator creates. They come out of the ICT industry, the internet and communication technology industries. So that presence, and by the way, they're very familiar with chips. They're very deeply integrated with chip companies that enable the software to do its function, whether that's hosting an operating system, an app ecosystem, or an AI engine. The chips enable all that. So the intimate relationship between those companies and the chip suppliers, I think, to your point, that we witnessed a real severance of the dominance of the OEM and traditional tier one relationship with the technology industry in the last 5 years, right? It was made even more obvious with the COVID outbreak and the Ukraine conflict, which disrupted supply chains even further. But the presence of the internet giants in the automotive industry value chain, the presence of companies that are building technology solutions in vehicle, that changes the whole nature and dynamic of the value chain and the relationship of the companies that provide the solutions with the end users of the product. So I think we tend to oversimplify things in the traditional automotive industry context because we see the world through a hardware lens, not a technology lens.
It's a simplification, Bill, about when I put together this MIH, the first word is minimalization, which is you want it simple and make sure your architecture is clean. It's easy for agnostic stick up of the software. So every hardware in the future will be like computer, phone being standardized. But the biggest thing is when you put different body style on it, that's the area that you can put agnostically different for different devices to make sure the user experience are maximized. So it's a minimization of the hardware and the maximization and complexity of the software.
Right, right. So let's play this out. We're standing at a sort of a juncture in the time looking forward, where 5 to 10 years from now, we're probably looking at a very different automotive industry landscape, both from a manufacturer and from a supply chain standpoint. Where do you see the industry heading in that next by 2030?
I can see that the reason the so-called merge acquisition still gonna happen a lot because the 5 million car club, people are still trying to find out how they can survive. This volume justification plus the industry is moving toward what's going on with the ICT, with also the future AI industry. This is all gonna be driven by one thing. This is something with the minimal part number of bond, bill of material, and it's going to be catered to different markets needs and different segmentation. You can see there are different feature options, very easily installed. The future world, I will believe that just like the phone, it's gonna be not too many apps in the phone. The apps be all like simplified. You can use voice. You can use any digitalization device to activate uh, the, the car or the mobility services. With that saying, just put it very simple. The platform will be very simple. It's a skateboard, not only skateboard, but also the battery is going to be all mounted onto the chassis. There are different architecture, but functionally it's going to be all autonomous drive because drive-by-wire is the trend. The best technology will be on the car. So everybody will be pretty much similar. But the difference is, are you going to provide the best services to your customer? So these cars could be autonomous drive and more B2B because B2B with fierce competition, people are exhausted with all this effort they can do for B2C. Most of the young generation are no longer looking for driving the car themselves. They are asking the Uber service, the DD service, or whoever. So whoever can provide the best services as a car company or as a mobility company will win out. And this is something that I would believe the merger acquisition is gonna keep happening in the traditional OEM because the 5 million cup, but then the big tech company is gonna come and take over, and then make sure uh, even the first camp of the traditional OEM coming to the second camp, the NIO, the Lishan, or even the BYD, will move to the third camp. That third camp is a combination of the technology sector, the global tech company is gonna embrace the not only hardware manufacturer like legacy, but also the startup, so they can form a greater platform, more than 10 million car, which could be a surviving tool commercially, but also the software wise, they will be able to provide the best service to the customer.
Right. So, as I take your point on dramatic simplification of product architectures, standardization around key technology domains, in particular, you mentioned AI, autonomous driving, that there'll be, I'd say, less complexity and less fragmentation of how that's done, more standardization on a common architecture, like we've seen, frankly, in the computer industry, where you've got a few hardware companies that can superscale these technologies to make them affordable, to democratize them, to use another word. If you don't have that, then you're going to end up with technology that only the rich people can enjoy. But that's not the way you scale, especially in the era of software architectures, right? You have to aggregate large data sets in order to better optimize the user experience. In order to generate large amounts of data, you need a lot of people using a common platform, whether that's an OS enabled ecosystem or a services ecosystem. Again, in China, we see that. We see the likes of Xiaomi, Huawei, Tencent, Alibaba, the big ICT companies with their own experiments in mobility, acting as the demand aggregators of the user base that they could monetize based on their data aggregation capability. But the ability to massively scale the hardware, that's something that requires a specialized skill set. Some companies can do both, but I think it's really a rare exception when you can see companies born in the hardware world act as true demand aggregators of digital services. Again, I look at the China market and say, what role does East Asia, and in particular China, play in the shaping of this future of mobility that you're describing?
I think that the young generation addressing the new technology and services
Hmm.
will be such a huge momentum here in Eastern Asia, that if you talk to the 20 years old or even the teenager, they are taking the digital world to the next step. So they're not going out for shopping. They are using a lot of services. They are even asking the delivery of their goods through the motorcycle, the car, maybe in the longer the drones, and in the longer term will be robots. So moving along that age, autonomous drive, the software, the central computing and high performance computing becomes so vital and critical. That's where the supply chain and the strength is in this region.
Yeah, and obviously we tend to think of viewed through the automotive industry lens. We see the market through the number of units you sell. The internet economy sees the market through the number of users it can serve with its platform, which, by the way, is an order of magnitude larger than the millions. It's hundreds of millions of people that are served by mobile internet technology. And the internet in Asia and in China in particular came up around the mobile device. And the computers may have existed in homes, but there were very small numbers of people back in the 80s and 90s that can afford a computer. But when the smartphone came after the iPhone and became ubiquitous, it changed the whole way you think of deploying a services-based ecosystem because you're addressing the market of the people with the internet in their pocket. The rest of the world had a legacy internet based on central computing architecture. China built its internet around a distributed mobile computing architecture. And when companies from that world become part of the automotive industry value chain, they see the car as yet another form factor. It's another computer. It's a computer on wheels. And Chinese consumers have embraced the mobile internet technology, and this has profoundly influenced their lives. As you say, we don't go to the store as much. We have the goods come to us. We don't go to the restaurant as often. The food is delivered to our door. That's far more prevalent. You can say, okay, that all exists outside of China, but it's far more prevalent in the way it has changed lives in China.
Maybe a little joking. the COVID work. The
COVID changed lifestyles. Absolutely.
yeah, COVID changed lifestyle and give them 3 years stay at home trying to develop what they think is best for them. And
Right.
then the mobility world changed so much that they developed the system actually becoming such a fierce competition in China domestically. The best car at the lowest cost that deliver the best services.
Yeah. And absolutely, COVID profoundly changed everybody, right? There were always some fringier people who maybe didn't embrace the mobile internet. You still had, grandma, grandpa with their little wheeled carts that would go to the corner store and buy their food and bring it home. I don't see that as much anymore. Grandma and grandpa had to learn how to forage for food through the smartphone during the COVID lockdown period. So the Internet of Things it's a consumer revolution, right? It's changed lifestyles. It's changed the way we think about, everything we interact with, whether it's your refrigerator, your speaker, your car, we all think of things need to be smart now. And I think that's the question is how is that relevant? Because again, I'm mainly talking to people that are not in China that don't see it every day. How is this reshaping the future of mobility in your view, Jack?
With all this is happening, I believe the proactively service your customer become the priority. Basically, don't come to us, we'll come to you. This is the service that we're gonna render to the customer. The traditional food store is sitting there and waiting for you to call up and say, "Hey, this is 5,000 kilometers, have your service," and then you have to wait because you have to book the time and get the service, get all these things. It ain't gonna happen. It's gonna be, you will be automatically OTA in the software, and the hardware, the service, they come to you and service you at home or at the site where your vehicle or your smart mobility is. That's the first thing. Don't call us, we call you. The second thing is that we will be seeing a faster product cycle, meaning not only giving you the different product and you can swap the product with your current vehicle. If you're not satisfied, it's just like Costco. You can go back and say, I want a refund or I want to swap to another car and you get your services, but you get to keep your digital data, your experience. They are all storage in a way they can make your next services better. So that's something I think profoundly changed the service industry and customer and providers relationship. Truly believe this is going to happen with AI's help, with the faster cycle of the product, and also with the technology of the energy. Is all going to be shaping the new world, become more customer driven. Because if you ain't going to be ready for that, you are not going to be ready for the robot era to come.
Yeah. Yeah, you brought up a few times the clock speed, the cycle, product cycles, as we like to call it in the industry. We've always kind of relied in this industry on having time to iterate, right? Not because we didn't want to get new products out. It just took that long to design, source, prove out and test, validate, manufacture, and build a distribution network around the piece of hardware, the automobile. It's still got that cycle to deal with, but things seem to be moving a lot faster now. And the traditional automotive industry product cycle is not keeping pace with the state of the art that what we're now seeing, particularly unfold in China. I did a back of the envelope calculation, and in the last 4 years, Tesla's introduced two products and two refreshes to those products. So you can count on one hand the number of marketable launches you have with that company. BYD in that same interval of time since 2020 has launched about 130 unique models and product cycle refreshes and technology packages. How does the world keep up with this kind of business that's moving at this pace? And what enables that to be possible?
I think that is totally because of your engineering mindset. The engineering work on a system is no longer like the segregate duties in our traditional legacy way of doing it. When you have your body structure, your powertrain structure, your electronic structure, your interior structure This was the old way of doing it. If you unbox all these vehicle of Tesla and then the other new startup, you find it's simpler. It doesn't need to have a lot of coordination to make the car work. It's simply because of the module. So this tier 0.5 becoming so important because if you still follow the point tier 1, tier 2 structure, you ain't gonna hit it. You will find out the development lead time is faster when you unbox all those vehicle, the Tesla of the world or the other startup. You will find the design is actually a better coordination without being split into different systems. You will see they were centering on one system. If you are seeing the hardware and software are going to be all combined together, that's something that make it move very fast. So this is one unibody design, casting body. That's the way to do it, right? Do it quicker. The new so-called the EA architecture, you don't need so much wiring anymore. You are making it to be able to be remote control even faster with the new AI design. Simulation can be done much faster. China is employing all these technology to do that. In a way, compared to the legacy, you will see they are still trying to fight between the department. That's why we need a DOGE in the automotive industry. This DOGE, if you have an overhaul, I think Elon have already overhauled the whole automotive industry years ago. That's why when he make this new platform for Tesla, he can do a better job. But he's now doing this government job, so we don't want to bother it. But we'll be seeing in China already viewing the Elon's evolution and then trying to replicate it in China and make it faster. I'm pretty sure Xiaomi is going to hit the casting body right away because he's such a big advantage of development.
Yeah. Now, I think rightfully so, the automotive industry needed to have a paradigm shift and somebody who came at it orthogonally, not with the traditional mindset. Certainly, Elon has done a lot to kind of move the industry in that direction. But I think what's happening in China is a step even further than what we've seen until now. And that's really because of the ICT or the digital economy exerting another gravitational impact on the direction of the technology and innovation. With digital features being integrated, the car is evolving into a connected moving space, right? It's literally a rolling smartphone on wheels with interactivity being a key design feature. In fact, if you don't have it, if you don't have that, it doesn't have to be in the form of NoMe, but if you don't have a human machine interface that serves the users, all users, not just the driver, then you're probably not on the shopping list anymore. That's a paradigm shift for the consumers of automobiles. Connectivity features become an essential part of the product configuration.
That's the lifestyle I'm talking about. You becoming your second living room in the cockpit. And that second living room is actually smart and connected, plus is innovative somehow. In that cockpit, you will be having a better lifestyle than your traditional one. So that's is happening.
Right. And it's hard to kind of reorient a brand. If you say you're Porsche or BMW, who defined your business model around driving experience, it's hard to say now your target is something different than that. It's to address the in-cabin experience of every single human being in that car. That's a reinterpretation of the brand promise from what it was. In China, you didn't have the baggage of a brand promise that was rooted in a different expectation for the car. And I think this is the hard adjustment that I think the traditional automotive industry has to contend with is what does my brand mean in this new world?
On the other hand, I would like to encourage those new emerging market for automotive or for mobility. They can build their own brand, but not in a traditional way. They have to build their smarter, so they don't have a legacy. If you go to the traditional country, Germany or France or England, they have their legacy brand. It's very hard for them to move on to build a new brand. Luckily, in US, if you are trying to build a new brand in Michigan, it will be very hard. But you build a brand in California, which is a totally different playground. So So if you build in Eastern Europe, you can build so many brands as a new smart brand. Uh, Likewise in Southeast Asia, China has already been happening, so China can share their experience to those countries.
Yeah. You brought up a point, and I want to come back to it about this new supply chain, and you used the term tier point five. I think I understand what this is. It's a new type of an aggregator. We think of suppliers as aggregators of hardware. A tier point five is not just that. It's actually aggregating the in-cabin experience. It's providing the platform that creates the identity of the car as a digital experience. Is that your understanding of what it is, and what is it from the standpoint of the automotive industry role that a tier point five would play?
This is easier to describe if you just say Huawei. Okay,
Yeah,
it's got a whole 9 yards, but you don't know whether Huawei is the vehicle brand or is an ecosystem provider. This is so-called, I would say, very much like tier point five. But the beauty of it is they can be selling to anyone, right? They put Huawei system into different brand in China or even to some outside because there are some geopolitical issue. Huawei wouldn't be able to go overseas very freely, but they can sell it to many people. So they can build their 10 million vehicle volumes club very easily. By the way, they are very ICT DNA driven. They are not being constrained by their legacy, so they can do the smart HMI, the cockpit experience with the way on the phone experience and also on the computer, and people will be more acceptable to that. So my point five tiers of evolution is that in the future, maybe some of the area like Europe will pop up another Huawei, and they're no longer like a Bosch or even the we so called the Magna as the previous
yeah,
1.5. Yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah.
the new tier point 5 will be somewhere like Huawei and be able to service the software, the experience in cockpit to the customer or even to the OEM.
Right. You give, I think, probably the most vivid example is Huawei for sure, because they have B2C relevancy. What makes a tier point five a tier point five is they're known to the end customer and they have relevancy in this new technology domain, right? This new integration of hardware, chipsets, software, operating systems. They bring the ecosystem. Traditional automotive tier ones don't have the inherent software capability. And many of them are not well known to the end consumer because unless they make a tire or an audio and infotainment system, they're probably not branded in the vehicle. Huawei is a well-known brand that consumers recognize, and when they see Huawei ecosystem inside the car, that becomes a selling point. That becomes a selling point. So they're probably the prototypical tier point five. How does the industry outside of China contend with that? What's the way to cope with this kind of a new, even if Huawei doesn't find its way to the rest of the world, which I think it'll try to do. What can we learn from this, and what can be done if you're a traditional competitor competing with this?
I think we still need some of this so-called tier point 5 approach in the traditional industry and trying to transform them into that kind of approach. So anything that in the ICT or even the tech sector, the Google, the Meta of the world, they can make sure one of their division becoming that mobility driven. That will help. If you say, hey, maybe Waymo could becoming another company that like Huawei in the US, which is great. Like in Europe, making another one. Like if Megan are knowing good enough of how to become another Huawei in the Europe, let them do it. I think that's the way.
Well, do you see any avenue for global partnerships to build these ecosystems? Is there a room in a more decoupled world or in a more fragmented world, which is what we seem to be evolving toward? Is there still room for bridging the East and the West?
I think you hit the point. The reason I'm putting together this M mobility is trying to orchestrate that kind of a bridging. And I would be very happy to help and hooked up with any Western world tech sector or even the market. I'll be becoming their go-to-market agency to help that system being replicated. The world is one world. It's never gonna be segregated because of all the tariff and all these things. This technology can be here and will make everybody win-win. But my biggest goal for air mobility is to make sure that the world is connected.
Great. So you've kind of outlined kind of what your role is now, and I was going to kind of try to guide you there, but thank you for going there. And mobility, why does it exist? What created it? What was the motivation for you, Jack, to get involved with this?
I got to find something to do, just like you. After after all my automotive experience, I really like to encourage the new generation to be able to find a way out. So when we put together this alliance, we are seeing the diamond in the rough in the region and try to say, hey, there are business opportunity you can do. So I'm becoming their go-to-market agency, help them push their business. But in the meantime, in each country, because the storage of the data, the security issue, when we launch the product into this different market, I'm becoming their software provider. Make sure, uh, maybe if they're using the China product for the domestic market for their users, they want to align to their domestic, I help them to localize it. So that's
Cool,
my
cool.
right now.
Yeah, and I think uniquely qualified to do that because you've been in both worlds. You understand what is unique and special about each, and finding a way to take the best capability from the world of, I'd say, digital disruption that we've witnessed and been a part of here, and bringing that, it's kind of like a bit of missionary work. You got to bring that religion back to the global auto industry. If it's to survive, it has to know how to compete in this first century technology revolution. Looking at the future, what advice would you give to young professionals who are passionate about making an impact, particularly in the areas that we've discussed, and particularly around technology and supply chain innovation?
Well, just like you, I wrote couple books, right? So I've encouraged people to really understand the leadership's behavior. I put this 8 leadership behaviors. Basically, know your end game. Don't try to waste too much time shooting different targets. Know that's your end game. If you want to be in the supply chain, make sure you're becoming the best of the best in supply chain. You want to be a marketing head, a guru of marketing, make your end game. And for the young generation, you have to be able to leverage AI a lot. So trying to learn not only ChatGPT, learn DeepSeek, learn different technology, and then put them all together, embrace them. I think that's the way to move on for the next generation, and don't shy from being making mistake. You can learn the mistake and then trying to make it a better self. This is something that I always want to do with my current platform and in different market. I just met with some Polish guy and I encouraged them that maybe for Ukraine reconstruction and the mobility world, I can help them.
Mm,
I encourage in the Middle East, the Southeast Asia. So, hey, I could help you, right? So this is something that we can help each other. The world is still as one.
cool. We have kids who've grown and gone to college, not all of whom came into the automotive industry. But if you were advising somebody who's in that stage of life where they're thinking, I want to be involved in the future of mobility, how do they best prepare themselves for this future? What should they study in college? What skill sets are they going to need to be relevant in the future of mobility?
I think they should click to the community of Xiaomi as well as click to the community of Tesla and trying to learn the user experience that those companies are providing to the customer and learn from the angle of the customer requirement, the services, and then go to the technology rather than develop a lot of technology and just trying to push it to the user. It's the way to work. So joining the community, go on the internet and check out how they interact in the new company like Xiaomi or in Tesla or in the new company like a lot of startup. It would be great for them. This is somehow everybody is starting from scratch. You will have a lot to learn from them.
And I think one way to kind of get a real visual feeling for what is happening is to come to an auto show where you can see the companies that are imagining that future and showcasing it. One of the things I took away from my last few times at the Beijing and Shanghai auto shows is you've got people presenting as if they were at a technology show, not at a car show, right? That you actually come out and talk about the AI and the user experience. I remember sitting at a Li Auto press event, and it was 20-minute press event, and it was about 12 minutes in, and they hadn't talked about the cars yet. They were talking about the ADAS and the HMI, the whole, as you describe it. I'm talking to you about the features that matter to you, the customer experience. And then at the end, they talk about the cars, right? The car becomes the dispenser of the cool technology as opposed to the car is the cool technology. It's an interesting paradigm shift. But you're going to come to the Shanghai show. We'll be sharing this podcast with the world before that. What would you suggest people go look at when they're here?
I think that you will find every couple of years in Shanghai, they make it alternate in Beijing. Last year in Beijing, I saw a lot of less model, less of this so-called decoration of the show, as
Right.
more substance into it. All EV last year in Beijing, everybody's pushing for EV, the new technology. I would really love to see if there are robots to be displayed in Shanghai show. That because the mobility world, the autonomous drive, the software driven, the central computing, it will be all evolved into a robot. If there is a showcase of robots, then I would really love to see that because that's going to lead the world from the four-wheeler to the two legs and make sure that everything for mobility with different lifestyle. You can have a robot, you can change whole your lifestyle.
Yeah, it's another form factor. We think of Internet of Things having changed every type of device we interact with that's smart. That's a computer. The computers now are going to have wheels, and eventually they're going to have legs. So that would be an interesting thing to see if the auto show becomes an AI show in the form of a humanoid way of presenting it.
So
That
with that,
should be interesting. Should be an interesting time, and for sure, always is the highlight of the year to come to the auto show here in China. Jack, I have to thank you. Thanks for the great conversation. I am going to invite others to be a part of this platform in the future. I'm calling this Auto Insider. Any suggestions on who else we should be talking to?
I think we should talk to Xiaozhi and then talk to Alicia. Uh, maybe talk to Shafrosi and all these other mafia.
Other mafia members.
Xiaozhi is also have some more insight into this.
Cool. Well, good. Well, thanks so much, Jack. Look forward to seeing you again soon here in Shanghai or in Taipei. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Bill Russo here from Automobility. Thanks for joining our Auto Insider podcast, where we bring you conversations with leaders that are reimagining the future of mobility. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe to our channel, as it'll help others to find us. And if you have suggestions on future people you'd like to hear from, please leave us a comment below. Until next time, enjoy the ride.